Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Hope Logan's wedding to Liam Spencer marked the culmination of years of love, heartbreak, and reconciliation. Hope stood in the bridal room, her gown a cascade of silk and lace that caressed her curves like a dream. Her blonde hair was swept up in loose curls, and a diamond tiara gleamed on her head. She looked at her mirror, her blue eyes filled with hope and a grin on her lips. This was it. After all of the anguish and betrayals, she and Liam were finally going to have the life they had always desired. Downstairs, Liam straightened his cufflinks, his nervousness barely restrained. His dark hair was nicely combed, and his navy suit highlighted his strong shoulders. He took brief looks at the garden, imagining Hope walking down the aisle toward him. His heart filled with love for her and the family they were building with their daughter, Beth. He'd made too many mistakes to count, but today was about redemption, about showing Hope that he was the man she deserved. Wyatt, his best man, smacked him on the shoulder with a grin. "Are you ready, bro? This is the real deal," Liam said, his smile wide and his gut twisting with anticipation. The visitors took their seats, and the hubbub faded as the four played a delicate performance of Pachelbel's canon. Brooke, Hope's mother, dabbed at her eyes, her heart full with pride. Hope's father, Deacon Sharp, sat alongside her, his normally cocky grin tempered by the sight of his daughter's joy. Rich Forrester, the patriarch, stood tall, examining the gathering with pride and alertness. The Logans and Spencers were reunited, if only for this moment, and the weight of their common past hung in the air like a fragile piece. Hope appeared at the head of the aisle, her arm looped around Deacon's. The crowd gasped, their gaze drawn to her stunning beauty. Liam's breath halted in his throat, and his eyes locked on hers. She represented everything, his past, present, and future. As she glided down the petal-strewn walk, her grin remained constant, and her glance never left his. The officiant, a friendly older guy with a lovely voice, began the ceremony, his words creating a tapestry of love and dedication. Hope and Liam exchanged vows, their voices firm despite the emotion that choked them. "I promise to love and cherish you, through every storm and every sunrise," Hope whispered, her voice shaking with sincerity. Liam mirrored her words, his hand clutching hers, and his gaze promising eternity. The moment had arrived for the rings. Wyatt handed Liam the exquisite band, which Donna, Hope's maid of honor, passed to her. The officiant grinned. "If anyone here has a reason why these two should not be united in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace." The garden fell hushed as the weight of the question settled on the throng. Hope's smile faltered for a split second, her gaze shifting to the rear of the venue. Liam followed her look, his brow furrowed. Something wasn't right. Then, a voice broke the silence. "I object." The words were crisp and purposeful, slicing through the air like a sword. Heads turned, and gasps echoed throughout the audience. Steffi Forrester stood at the garden's edge, her black dress standing out against the sea of pastel colors. Her dark hair was pushed back firmly, and her eyes were flashing with wrath, making her almost unrecognizable. She went forward, her heels clicking across the stone path, grabbing everyone's attention. Hope's face turned pale, and the bouquet trembled in her hands. Liam's jaw stiffened, and his eyes narrowed. "Steffi, what the hell are you doing?" he demanded, his voice low and angry. Steffi paused a few feet from the altar, her eyes fixed on Hope. "I'm sorry, Hope," she continued, her voice full of hate, "but this wedding cannot happen. Not when you've been lying to everyone, including Liam." The crowd murmured, their gazes shifting between Steffi, Hope, and Liam. Brooke stood, her voice crisp. "Steffi, this is absurd.
Sit down."
But Steffi disregarded her, her gaze never leaving Hope's. "Tell them, Hope," she asked, her voice rising. "Tell them the truth about Beth." Hope's legs weakened, and she grabbed Liam's arm to keep herself stable. Her eyes were wide and full of tears. "Steffi, please," she said softly, her voice breaking. Not like this. Liam stared between the two women, perplexity and dread rising in his chest. Hope, what is she talking about? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The officiant shuffled nervously, still clutching the rings in his hands. The quintet had stopped playing, and the silence was overwhelming. Steffi moved closer, her voice breaking through the tension. Liam, I hope you've been hiding something. Something that alters everything. Beth isn't just your daughter, she's also mine. The words hung in the air like a bombshell, detonating every frail hope in the garden. Liam's face became slack, his eyes searching Hope's for any indication that this was a cruel joke. Hope's tears overflowed, and her body trembled as she shook her head. No, Steffi, you're wrong, she sputtered out. You don't understand. Steffi wasn't finished. She took a folder from her clutch and held it up like a weapon. I have proof, she declared, her voice triumphant. Medical records and DNA tests. Beth is mine, Liam. Hope knew, and she kept it from you, from all of us. She threw the folder to the ground in front of the altar, scattering documents across the petals. The audience was motionless, their looks a mix of shock and fear. Ridge moved forward, his voice booming. Steffi, it's enough. This is Hope's wedding. However, Steffi's eyes were wild, her pain and wrath consumed her. No, Dad, this is the truth. Hope abducted my baby, and she's been lying to Liam the entire time. Liam lurched back, his hand slipping out of Hope's. Hope, he cried with a hoarse voice. Tell me she's lying. Tell me this isn't real. Hope's sobbing shook her body, and her bouquet fell to the ground. I didn't know, she said softly, her voice barely audible. I promise, Liam. I didn't realize until recently. I was going to tell you, I promise. But her words were drowned out by Steffi's mocking laughter. Recently? Steffi spat. You have known for months, Hope. You led Liam to believe Beth was his and yours alone, but she is ours. The realization struck Liam like a physical blow. He staggered and clutched his chest. Beth, their daughter, the light of their lives. Was she Steffi's? His mind raced with memories of Beth's birth, her first grin, her little hands wrapping around his finger, all tainted by this betrayal. He saw Hope, the woman he had loved through every mistake and tragedy, as a stranger. How could you? He muttered, his voice breaking. How could you keep this from me? Hope grabbed for him with shaking hands. Liam, please let me explain. But he backed away, his eyes filled with pain. The guests were now speaking furiously, with some standing and others gripping their partners in shock. Brooke ran to Hope's side, throwing her arms around her daughter, but Hope was distraught, her sobbing ringing throughout the yard. Steffi stood upright, her chest heaving, her eyes glistening with her own tears. This wasn't simply about vengeance, it was about a mother's love and a kid taken away from her. The truth unfolded like a thread that had been tugged too tightly. Months ago, during a hectic night at the hospital, a mix-up occurred. Steffi, who was grieving the loss of her own child, was informed that her baby had died. But Beth, born to Hope at the same time, was still alive and, unbeknownst to everybody, Steffi's biological daughter, switched at birth due to a nurse's error and Hope's desperate desire to protect her own family. Hope had uncovered the truth weeks before, confiding solely in her mother, terrified by the fear of losing Liam and Beth. She had intended to inform Liam after the wedding, to ease him into the truth, but Steffi discovered it before, thanks to her own inquiry, which was fueled by mistrust and grief. Liam's world shattered. He gazed at the scattered papers, the DNA findings staring back at him. Beth was Steffi's. His daughter, the kid he had raised, loved, and sung to sleep, was not his. Or was she? The deception mattered more to him than the biology. Hope's silence, and her decision to marry him while suppressing this, stung deeper than any previous betrayal. He looked away from her, his shoulders stooped, unwilling to confront her tear-stained expression. Steffi's victory seemed hollow. She'd come to stop the wedding and reclaim her daughter, but the cost was clear in the carnage around her. The garden, once a refuge of love, has become a battlefield. Guests fled, leaving rumors behind them. The officiant slipped away, leaving the rings on the altar. Brooke cradled Hope as she fainted, her bridal gown gathering around her like a fallen cloud. Deacon remained motionless, his hands clenched, torn between rage at Steffi and sympathy for his daughter. Ridge approached Steffi, keeping his voice quiet. "You've done enough damage, Steffi. Go home." Steffi shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I had to, Dad. She's my daughter." Liam walked away, his steps heavy and his heart broken. He didn't glance back, not at Hope, Steffi, or the life he imagined he was creating. The garden deserted, and the roses withered under the weight of the truth. Hope sat alone on the altar steps, her tiara skewed and her dreams shattered. Steffi stood at the edge of the lawn, clutching the DNA results, her satisfaction dampened by the awareness that she had shattered not just Hope's wedding, but also Beth's chance at peace. The days that followed were a whirl of agony. Hope isolated herself in her cabin, avoiding visitors, and her phone was full of unanswered calls from Liam. She relived the wedding in her head, Steffi's voice reverberating like a nightmare. She had lost everything: Liam, her pride, and her future. Brooke tried to console her, but Hope's guilt was an insurmountable burden. She knew the truth about Beth, but she chose silent to protect her family. She had lost her entire family. Liam plunged himself into his job, avoiding the Forrester estate, Steffi, and thoughts of Beth's laughter. He couldn't face Hope and couldn't forgive her lies. But he couldn't face Steffi, whose wrath reminded him of the child they'd both lost in separate ways. Beth stayed with Hope while the courts decided her fate, but Liam paid her covert visits, his heart tearing every time she called him Daddy. He had no idea who he was anymore, husband, father, or fool. Steffi, despite her confidence, was disintegrating. She had triumphed in some ways. Beth was hers legally and biologically, but the victory tasted like ash. She saw the anguish in Liam's eyes, the despair in Hope's, and wondered whether she had gone too far. Her own pain, hidden for months, returned, mixed with guilt. She'd destroyed a family to restore her own, but at what expense? The Logan Spencer Forrester triangle, once a tangled web of love and betrayal, had become a graveyard of broken promises. Hope's wedding, which was supposed to be a new beginning, became the loss of all she held dear. Steffi's secret, her truth, had set her free yet shackled her for a life of sorrow. Liam, caught in the midst, was left with only the echo of an unfulfilled pledge. Years later, Beth would grow up with 3 parents: Hope, who loved her fiercely and protectively; Liam, who treasured her despite the lies; and Steffi, who fought for her with the desperation of a mother. But the scars from that day have never vanished. Hope never married again, her heart permanently attached to the guy she lost. Liam strayed, his love for Hope and Beth a never-healing wound. Steffi reared Beth with love and remorse, her when a reminder of the day she ripped up a family to rescue her own. The Forrester mansion stood still, its gardens unkempt, and the scent of white roses and broken vows hung in the air. Love, betrayal, and truth were the threads that connected Hope, Liam, and Steffi's lives, creating a tapestry of tragedy that no one could unravel. Steffi sat alone in the darkly lit Forrester guest home hours before the wedding, her hands quivering over a glass of water she had never tasted. The world outside was prepared for joy. The flowers had arrived. The ceremony chairs were arranged in perfect symmetry, and Hope's dress hung unspoiled and dazzling, like a promise no one should break. But pledges were already broken. Love had already been bent, sculpted, and twisted into something that appeared to be devotion but was actually filled with remorse. Steffi realized she was the reason. God knows she had tried to bury it. She had convinced herself that what had happened that night in the cloud of grief and comfort was only a slip, a wound looking for another to press against. Lee trusts Sheila, and Sheila must accept it. Deacon must trust his emotions and Taylor must trust her intuition and Deacon. Both require strength. Lee encourages it, Deacon must find it, Sheila must demonstrate it, and Taylor must maintain it. Both involve change. relationships evolve, and self-identity shifts. Both entail risk, giving help and approaching someone. From a viewer's standpoint, what makes this intriguing is the human truth beneath the drama. Individuals seek connection, meaning, bear scars, and long for something better. Lee and Sheila are two women who have been hurt by life and are reaching out in their own unique ways. Deacon and Taylor contemplate on this. Two people carrying baggage, searching for clarity, recognizing possibility. The soap genre allows for extremes, but it also encourages reflection and vulnerability. These arcs provide that. In terms of tempo and structure, the program appears to be built gradually and deliberately. The sisterhood isn't immediate, and the near kiss isn't inevitable. The play allows for ambiguity, back and forth, and complication. That's good storytelling. It engages viewers, inviting them to root for connection, dread disruption, and hope for resolution. It reminds us that connections are multidimensional, not binary. So when Lee tells Sheila to stay strong, she is not expressing false hope. She is acknowledging the battle. When Deacon and Taylor get near, the moment is not victorious, but sensitive. One further dimension, the public image of the characters within the show's universe. Sheila has a reputation for danger, deception, and prior misdeeds, whereas Lee is known for being direct, secure, and authoritative. So, when Lee reaches out, perspectives shift, both inside the environment and within the audience. It begs the question, can someone with a bad past still be someone you stick by? For Sheila, it begs the question of whether she can trust someone who is standing with her. Lee, can I put my reputation on the line for someone like her? These are significant questions buried in the narrative. Similarly, Deacon and Taylor's kiss has public implications. Names will be batted about. Relationships will be judged. The past can't be ignored. The near kiss sends shockwaves through Deacon's fragile marriage to Sheila. Taylor's moral code is strong, and the near kiss sets off internal alarms. And for those around them, family, friends, rivals, the near kiss is a portent that something is about to change. Drama is based not only on what happened, but also on what could happen. That is how well the show is playing. So where does all this go? One option is that Lee and Sheila's friendship grows stronger. Perhaps they will become true allies in the face of a common enemy. In doing so, Sheila may find a way to redemption, or at least a path to a more stable self. Lee may discover unexpected support in someone she formerly distrusted. That outcome would transform their personalities. Deacon and Taylor's near kiss might become a kiss or be halted, escalating the tension. The fallout could affect Sheila, Lee, and other characters. The confluence of these arcs sets the setting for a significant shift. Even if the show deviates, if Lee and Sheila's relationship deteriorates, if Deacon withdraws, thematic richness remains. The belief that relationships are pliable, that strength is relational, that transforming moments occur in short, charged contacts, that support can come from unexpected places, and that near misses are as important as full blows. Such nuance is essential to the soap genre, and the current storyline is no exception. At its core, the sentence Lee urges Sheila to stay strong has weight. It's simple, but in this setting, profound. Stay strong indicates you are going to face something, whereas I will stand with you means I will support you. The sisterhood is more than just talk. It is actionable. It's a force. And Taylor and Deacon's near kiss is significant. It marks a turning point. It is almost but not quite surrender, which is where the story exists. The phrase Lee and Sheila's bond deepens encapsulates metamorphosis. It indicates that two people, perhaps more alike than they imagined, are aligning. One could even imagine Lee as the rock, Sheila as the tide, and Taylor and Deacon as the wind and sail. The rock provides stability, the tide causes change, and the wind drives movement. The sail, Deacon/Taylor, responds to the wind and water. Sisterhood provides stability, while romance shakes things up. Both propel the characters forward. The text encourages us to observe how they land. It would be negligent not to discuss the stakes. For each character, the stakes are great. Sheila's future, Lee's reputation, Deacon's marriage, and Taylor's ethics all hang in the balance. The emotional investment is real. The audience isn't simply watching a flirtation or a friendship. They're watching lives change. And the story is intelligent enough to let the audience feel that. The writing does not haste. It teases, builds trust, and creates suspense. We're drawn in. To summarize, the current developments on The Bold and The Beautiful succeed on numerous levels. The growing friendship between Lee and Sheila provides emotional resonance and the possibility of an unexpected allyship. The near-kiss between Deacon and Taylor generates romantic tension, moral stakes, and narrative momentum. Lee's encouragement of Sheila to remain strong frames the situation in heroic terms, not of great gestures, but of personal determination. The emphasis is on meaning rather than sight. As the plot progresses, the viewer is left wondering whose alliances will hold, what desires will be acted upon, what characters will change, and what will it cost. The stage is set. The players are in motion. The sisterhood is forming. Romance is on the rise. The question remains, who will steer the ship and who will be carried away? At the center of it all was Dr. Lee Finnegan, the poised psychiatrist whose placid demeanor belied a maelstrom of loyalty and resolve. Her relationship with Sheila Carter, the fabled nine-toed enigma, had evolved from a tentative partnership to something more profound, a sisterhood forged in the crucible of suffering. And as Lee stood in the dimly lit corridor outside her office, her hand resting on Sheila's shoulder, she whispered words that would reverberate through the halls of their complicated lives. "Stay strong, Sheila. We've come too far to let them tear us apart." If you want to see the second part, please leave your feedback in the comment section.